The unexpected diversion Olivia Reed surveyed the glittering ballroom with a practiced eye, mentally checking off items on her event coordination list. The annual Horizons Foundation Gala was proceeding perfectly. Champagne flowed, the string quartet played softly, and Seattle's elite mingled among artfully arranged charity displays. After 3 years at Pinnacle Events, Olivia had mastered the art of invisible efficiency, moving through crowds unnoticed while ensuring everything ran smoothly. "The silent auction closes in 20 minutes, she murmured into her headset, adjusting a slightly crooked flower arrangement as she passed. "Francesca, please remind the catering staff about the dessert timing." At 32, Olivia had built a reputation for flawless events. Though few guests ever recognized the auburn-haired woman in the simple black dress who made everything possible, she preferred it that way, observing rather than participating, creating perfect moments for others while keeping a professional distance. Her attention shifted to a commotion near the bar. Julian Hayes, the notoriously private founder of Nexus Technologies, appeared cornered by a woman whose body language screamed determination. Even from across the room, Olivia recognized the signs of an uncomfortable social situation. Julian's tight smile and subtle backward lean told her everything she needed to know. "Trouble at 2 o'clock, her assistant Diego whispered as he passed. "That's Vanessa Carrington, Julian's ex. Tabloids had a field day when they broke up last year. She's been trying to reconnect all evening." Olivia frowned. Julian Hayes was not only a major donor, but had specifically requested a drama-free evening. His company's groundbreaking sustainable energy technology made him the night's unofficial guest of honor, and his comfort was priority. "Intercept, please," she instructed Diego, but he shook his head. "Already tried. She's on a mission." Olivia hesitated, then made a split-second decision. Smoothing her dress, she grabbed 2 champagne flutes and walked purposefully toward the increasingly tense conversation. "There you are," she exclaimed warmly, approaching Julian as though they were intimate acquaintances. Before he could respond, she handed him a glass and leaned in, placing a quick, light kiss on his cheek. "I've been looking everywhere for you." Julian's startled hazel eyes met hers, confusion evident before quick understanding dawned. At 38, he had a reputation for brilliant innovation and carefully guarded privacy. His tall frame tensed momentarily before relaxing into the charade. "Olivia," he said, his voice surprisingly warm for a man meeting his savior for the first time. "I was just catching up with an old friend." Vanessa's perfectly made-up face tightened with poorly concealed irritation. "I didn't realize Julian was bringing anyone tonight." "Last-minute decision," Olivia smiled apologetically. "You know how it is with our schedules." She tucked her hand comfortably into Julian's arm like she'd done it 1,000 times. "Well," Vanessa said, her tone cooling several degrees. "I should circulate." "Nice seeing you, Julian." As she walked away, Olivia began to extract her hand, but Julian covered it with his own, preventing her retreat. "Not yet," he murmured. "She's still watching." "I owe you a tremendous debt, Miss Reed, Olivia Reed. I'm the event coordinator." She felt a flush creeping up her neck at the continued contact. "Just doing my job, ensuring guest comfort. Does that typically include rescue kisses?" His eyes crinkled slightly at the corners, revealing unexpected humor. "Only in emergencies," she replied, finding herself smiling back. "Consider it a complimentary service." "Well, Ms. Reed," he said quietly, "your timing is impeccable." Neither noticed the photographer across the room, capturing what appeared to be an intimate moment between Seattle's most eligible bachelor and an unknown woman, a photo destined to change both their lives by morning. Media spotlight by noon the following day, Olivia's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She stared in horror at the Seattle Chronicle's lifestyle page, where the headline, "Tech Titan's Mystery Woman," hovered above a photo of Julian Hayes looking at her with unexpected warmth, her lips just leaving his cheek. "This is a disaster," she groaned to Diego, who sat across from her in Pinnacle Events' downtown office. "Mrs. Thornfield is going to fire me. We have a strict no-fraternization policy with clients." "Actually," Diego said, sliding his tablet across the desk, Your inbox is filling with event requests. Everyone wants the coordinator who caught Julian Hayes' attention, and Mrs. Thornfield called to congratulate you on the publicity. But it wasn't real, Olivia protested, scrolling through messages from reporters seeking comment. It was just professional intervention. Her phone lit up with an unknown number. She answered hesitantly. Ms. Reed? This is Gabriela Martinez, Mr. Hayes' personal assistant. He'd like to meet with you today regarding last night's situation. 3 hours later, Olivia found herself in the sleek, minimalist reception area of Nexus Technologies headquarters. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of Elliott Bay, but she barely noticed. Rehearsing explanations and apologies. He'll see you now, Gabriela said, leading her to a corner office where Julian stood gazing out at the water, hands clasped behind his back. Mr. Hayes, I'm so sorry about— Please, he interrupted, turning to face her. In casual business attire, charcoal slacks, and a blue button-down with rolled sleeves, he looked more approachable than the formal figure from the gala. Call me Julian, and you have nothing to apologize for. I should be thanking you again. Olivia blinked. Thanking me? But the photos, the speculation. Julian gestured for her to sit. The board is actually pleased. Apparently, I've been too reclusive since the Vanessa debacle. They think a humanizing romance is good for company image. His mouth quirked in a half-smile. The stock is up 3 points since this morning, so— You're not upset? About the kiss? No. About the media circus? I'm used to it. He studied her with unexpected intensity. But you're not. Gabriela tells me your personal information has already been dug up by tabloids. Olivia winced. My inbox and social media are flooded. Someone even tracked down my parents in Portland. Julian frowned, genuine concern crossing his features. I'm truly sorry about that. Which brings me to my proposal. Proposal? A mutually beneficial arrangement. 6 weeks of carefully managed public appearances together. Enough time for media interest to wane naturally without the dramatic breakup stories that would follow an immediate denial. He leaned forward. Nexus gets positive publicity during our crucial funding round, and you get— What exactly? Olivia asked, skepticism evident. Protection from media harassment through my PR team? A substantial consulting fee and exclusive rights to coordinate Nexus's charity events for the next year. His expression softened. Plus, you'd be helping me avoid Vanessa's renewed attempts at reconciliation. Olivia considered the professional opportunity this presented. Nexus's events could establish her independent career beyond Pinnacle. What would these appearances involve? Dinner twice weekly, attendance at 3 industry functions, and perhaps a weekend at my family's lake house. All strictly professional, of course, he added quickly. We maintain the illusion publicly while privately forming a business relationship beneficial to us both. And after 6 weeks? We amicably part ways, citing busy schedules but remaining on good terms. He extended his hand. Do we have an agreement? Olivia hesitated, studying his face for any sign of deception. Finding none, she shook his hand, ignoring the unexpected warmth that traveled up her arm at his touch. Agreement. Neither anticipated how quickly their carefully orchestrated appearances would begin to feel less like performances and more like the highlights of their weeks. When Julian's hand found the small of her back as they entered a charity auction 2 weeks later, Olivia couldn't help noticing how naturally it rested there, or how she'd begun to anticipate their meetings with something dangerously close to excitement. Beyond appearances, 3 weeks into their arrangement, Olivia found herself seated across from Julian at Lumiere, an exclusive French restaurant perched atop one of Seattle's tallest buildings. Rain pattered against the windows, creating a cozy atmosphere despite the venue's formality. Your PR team is remarkably thorough, Olivia observed, sipping her wine. They've crafted our relationship timeline down to where we supposedly had our first real date. Julian smiled, the expression reaching his eyes in a way it hadn't during their early appearances. Gabriela takes particular pride in that narrative. She thinks the coffee shop near your apartment adds authenticity. I do actually get my morning latte there, Olivia admitted, though I doubt the real Julian Hayes would appreciate their mismatched chairs and excessive cat memorabilia. You'd be surprised, he replied, his voice softening. My apartment is hardly the sterile minimalist space people expect. I have a weakness for comfortable things. Olivia tilted her head, studying him. After weeks of public performances, she'd begun noticing the differences between Julian's public persona and private moments like this. The slight relaxation of his shoulders when it was just them, the occasional unguarded laugh. People assume technology executives live in spaces resembling their product designs, he continued. My home is full of books, vintage records, and furniture chosen for comfort rather than aesthetic. My sister teases me about being a secret homebody. You have a sister? Olivia realized how little she actually knew about him beyond his public biography. Penny. She's a pediatric nurse in Chicago, completely unimpressed by all this. He gestured vaguely at their surroundings. Keeps me grounded. The waiter arrived with their entrees, momentarily pausing their conversation. When he departed, Julian surprised her with a question of his own. Why event coordination? Your degree was in environmental science, wasn't it? Olivia nearly dropped her fork. You researched me? Basic due diligence, he said, though a faint flush suggested something more. You know everything about me, or what the internet claims about me. Seemed fair to learn about the woman pretending to be my girlfriend, she conceded with a nod. I wanted to work in conservation. Then my father had his stroke during my senior year. Mom needed help with medical bills, so I took the first job that paid well. She traced the rim of her water glass. Event planning was supposed to be temporary, but I discovered I had a talent for it. Years passed, and here we are. Do you still think about it? Conservation work? The question caught her off guard. Not just the content, but the genuine interest behind it. No one had asked about that dream in years. Sometimes, she admitted, I volunteer at the Urban Wildlife Rehabilitation Center monthly. Just basic stuff, cleaning enclosures, preparing food. But it feels meaningful. Julian nodded, something unreadable crossing his face. The gap between what we planned and where we land. It's familiar territory. Even for successful tech entrepreneurs? Especially for us, he said quietly. Nexus was never about getting rich. I wanted to create sustainable energy solutions accessible to developing regions. Now I spend most days in board meetings discussing profit margins while our humanitarian initiatives get sidelined. The vulnerability in his admission created a shift between them. For the first time, Olivia saw beyond both the public figure and the private businessman to something more complex. A person with his own disappointments and compromised dreams. Later, as they waited for the valet, Julian hesitantly touched her elbow. Would you show me? The Wildlife Center. Not for publicity, no photographers, just, I'd like to see this part of your life. The request hung between them, clearly crossing the boundary from professional arrangement into something personal. Olivia should refuse. Maintaining distance was crucial for their agreement. Instead, she heard herself say, Sunday morning, wear clothes you don't mind getting dirty. When he arrived that Sunday in worn jeans and a faded university sweatshirt, looking nothing like the polished executive from magazine covers, something shifted permanently in how she saw Julian Hayes and in the nature of their carefully constructed charade. Weathering storms. You can't possibly be serious about him. Olivia looked up from her laptop to find her best friend Zoe standing in her apartment doorway, waving a tabloid. 5 weeks into their arrangement with Julian, the media fascination had only intensified. It's complicated, Olivia replied, which wasn't entirely a lie. What had begun as a business arrangement had evolved into something undefined. Their public appearances continued, but now so did private moments. Hiking trails where no photographers ventured, late-night phone conversations about books and childhood memories, text messages that had nothing to do with maintaining their cover story. Complicated? Zoe dropped onto the couch. He's Julian Hayes, tech world royalty with a reputation for keeping people at arm's length. You're setting yourself up for heartbreak. We're friends, Olivia insisted, though the word felt insufficient for the warmth that spread through her chest when Julian's name appeared on her phone. The agreement ends next week, she added. Everything goes back to normal, but normal had somehow shifted its definition. Normal now included Julian's perspective on her day, his dry observations making her laugh at unexpected moments. Normal included someone who asked about her wildlife rehabilitation stories and remembered details about her parents. Her phone buzzed with a text from Gabriella. Emergency. Office now, 40 minutes later. Olivia stood frozen in Julian's office while he paced before floor-to-ceiling windows, tension radiating from every movement. "They're saying you orchestrated everything," he said, gesturing to the business tabloid on his desk. "That you manipulated our meeting at the gala as a calculated career move." The article featured quotes from sources close to Reed, claiming she had planned the kiss as a publicity stunt to advance her event planning business. "That's absurd," she said, though her voice trembled. "Who would even say that?" "Vanessa," Julian said flatly. "She's quoted anonymously, but I recognize her particular brand of character assassination." "Does it matter? In a week, this is over anyway." The words tasted bitter. "Your board got their positive publicity. My client list has grown. Mission accomplished." Julian stopped pacing, something vulnerable flickering across his face. "Is that all this has been to you? A business transaction?" The question hung between them, weighted with weeks of shared conversations, private jokes, and moments when their performances had given way to genuine connection. Before she could answer, Gabriella entered with tablet in hand. "The board's requesting an immediate statement, Julian. They're concerned about potential damage to the company's image." Olivia felt something crack inside her chest. Of course, the company's image. That's what mattered here, not her reputation, not the trust they'd built. "I should go," she said quietly. Olivia, "Wait. You have a statement to craft." She gathered her bag, professionalism masking the hurt. "I suggest emphasizing that our relationship was brief but amicable. That protects Nexus while allowing you distance from any potential scandal attached to me. That's not..." "It's fine, Julian. This was always temporary." She managed a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I've coordinated enough events to know when the party's over." 3 days passed without contact. Olivia threw herself into work, ignoring the growing ache in her chest and the concerned glances from Diego. Nexus issued a vague statement, neither confirming nor denying the tabloid's claims, while Olivia's phone remained conspicuously silent. On the 4th day, a courier delivered a package containing a single USB drive and a handwritten note. "Before you decide it was all performance, watch this." The drive contained security footage from the Horizons Gala, showing Vanessa deliberately maneuvering Julian into isolation, his increasingly uncomfortable attempts to leave, and Olivia's impulsive intervention. The timestamp confirmed what she had always known. It had been spontaneous, not calculated. As the footage ended, another video began. Julian sitting at his desk, looking directly into the camera. "I've spent my life building walls," he said simply, "until someone breached them with nothing more than kindness and a pretend kiss. The question isn't whether our beginning was real. It's whether what we've become is worth fighting for." Authentic Heart's rain poured relentlessly as Olivia stood before the Nexus Technologies building, Julian's video message replaying in her mind. Security waved her through. They knew her face well by now, but Gabriella's desk sat empty. The entire executive floor seemed deserted at this late hour. Julian's office door stood ajar, soft light spilling into the darkened hallway. She hesitated, suddenly uncertain. Their arrangement had officially ended yesterday without the planned public statement about an amicable parting. The board had apparently decided that silence was preferable to acknowledging the scandal Vanessa had attempted to create. Taking a deep breath, Olivia pushed the door open. Julian wasn't at his desk. Instead, she found him standing by the windows, watching lightning illuminate the rain-slicked city below. He turned at her entrance, surprise and something like hope crossing his features. "You came," he said simply. "Your security footage made a compelling argument." She remained by the door, maintaining distance while she gathered her thoughts. "But it doesn't change the fundamental problem. Your world and mine don't align, Julian. Your board already sees me as a liability. I resigned as CEO this afternoon." The statement hung in the air between them. Olivia stared, certain she'd misheard. "You what?" Julian crossed to his desk, retrieving a folder which he extended toward her. Nexus's new humanitarian division. Sustainable energy implementation in underserved communities. Starting with a pilot program in rural Indonesia. She took the folder, scanning project outlines and budgets. This is impressive, but what does it have to do with resigning? I'm heading the division personally. No more board meetings or quarterly profit discussions. His expression softened. I'm returning to why I started Nexus in the first place. That's wonderful, she said sincerely. But again, what does this have to do with me? Julian took a careful step closer. The division needs someone who understands both environmental science and how to coordinate complex logistics in challenging settings. Someone passionate about conservation but practical about implementation. Understanding dawned slowly. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you the chance to reclaim your original dream, he corrected gently. Whether or not there's still a place for me in your life. Olivia set the folder down, emotions tangling in her chest. You researched me from the beginning. Was this your plan all along? To what? Rescue me from event planning? No. He ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of uncertainty. That first night, the kiss, it was unexpected. Everything that followed was equally unplanned. But getting to know you? He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. You saw past every facade I've constructed. You challenged me to remember what actually matters. So this grand gesture is what? Gratitude? Julian closed the remaining distance between them, close enough that she could see the flecks of amber in his hazel eyes. It's me finally being brave enough to stop pretending. The cameras, the public appearances, those were our excuse. But every private conversation, every moment when no one was watching, that was real. At least for me. The vulnerability in his admission stole her remaining defenses. For me too, she whispered. His hand rose tentatively to brush rain-dampened hair from her face. I don't want an arrangement or a business transaction. I want breakfast conversations and wildlife rehabilitation on Sundays. I want to argue about books and wake up to your impossible coffee contraption. I want to build something real. Even if it scandalizes your board, she asked, a smile finally breaking through. Especially then, he murmured, his thumb tracing her cheek. I'm no longer answerable to them anyway. This time when they kissed, there were no photographers, no audience, no strategic purpose, just the honest connection between two people who had accidentally found authenticity in what began as pretense. 6 months later, as Olivia coordinated the installation of solar panels in a remote village while Julian worked alongside local engineers, a package arrived from Seattle. Inside was a framed copy of the original photo from the gala, accompanied by a note from Diego. Sometimes the most convincing performances are the ones we don't realize we're already living. Olivia smiled. Tucking the frame among their modest belongings in the field station they now called home. Their journey had begun with a spontaneous kiss meant to create distance between Julian and an unwanted past. Instead, it had become the first step toward bridging the distance between two people who discovered that real connection often happens when we least expect it, and are finally brave enough to embrace it.